Hello, everybody. Welcome to Talk About Houses. I'm Todd.
I'm Juana.
Okay, we're going to talk about a bill that was introduced to ban hedge funds from owning single-family homes.
Right.
Okay, now this was introduced by Democrats. We're not going to talk about the politics of this, okay? We're going to talk about the economics of it.
Right.
So if you want to make comments, do not make political comments because it could have just as easily been the Republicans or whoever else. But we're going to talk about like whether this even makes sense, if this would move the needle, but we're talking about the economics of this.
Right.
Okay, so we got some information from the article. This is brand new, so this hasn't really taken hold. This is literally, when a bill gets introduced, it's usually you get one or two people. Now, this is called a bicameral bill. And
which means that there's a version in each chamber that's going to get voted, and then they'll have a conference committee and try to mush them together and that sort of thing.
So there's a couple differences with it, but the ultimate, Juana, what is the ultimate sort of goal? Like, why are they doing this? What is their theory that this is going to help the problem this is going to solve?
So they feel that hedge funds are an unfair competition for owner-occupants.
Okay.
And so they feel that by banning hedge funds from owning properties or by making it financially punitive for them to own properties, they will discourage hedge funds from participating in the residential market, and that will create sufficient inventory for all the single family occupants or mom and pop investors or whatever. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to take out the corporations and create a better market for individuals, which, it sounds noble. It really does. And I appreciate the sentiment. I have trepidation about the government interfering in the marketplace because the unintended consequences tend to be far worse than the problem that they're trying to solve.
Okay, here's a quote. You've created a situation where ordinary Americans aren't bidding against other families. They're bidding against the billionaires of America for these houses, Senator Merkley told the Times, and it's driving up rents and it's driving up the home prices.
So let's address that for a moment.
Okay.
When she's saying that they're bidding against the billionaires of Americans, just a moment. Who owns shares of these hedge funds? Well, it's pension plans. It's your 401k. It's you. So part of your investment strategy is to invest, through the different marketplaces who eventually invest in hedge funds and who eventually purchase these homes. So this is what I'm saying. It's this whole argument that somehow these are separate from individuals. Well, not so fast. They're not quite separate from individuals.
Okay, I'm going to take another different aspect of this. We had a house listed where it was $400,000, and a owner occupant offered $400,000 with a loan. And one of these funds, which is just a fund that they get money from, like Juana said, pension plans and everything else, offered $410,000 cash, and they got the house because it was cash, and the person wanted to. My argument would be this is actually better because the homeowner got more money. The person that owned the house, an individual taxpayer, got more money from one of these billionaire corporations because they took $410,000 from a billionaire corporation, right? It's more money for them. The argument is if they weren't allowed, the person would have made $10,000 less thanks to the government.
Or the person would have not sold that home to that particular buyer anyway because maybe they couldn't qualify for the loan, and they would have had more out-of-pocket expenses because they've had to carry the house longer. So it could have been more costly to the seller.
Here's another quote from the article. Democratic Representatives Jeff Jackson and Alma Adams of North Carolina introduced a separate bill called the American Neighborhood Protections Act. It would require corporate owners of more than 75 single-family homes to pay an annual fee of $10,000 per home into a housing trust fund to be used as down payment assistance for families, according to the Times. So what they're saying now is, okay, you can buy as many homes as you want, but we want you to put $10,000 per home into a fund. But chances are they would find a way around this because that was going to substantially eat into any rents that they get, right?
Right.
Because a lot of these houses are probably only getting, depending on the market, $15,000 to $25,000 a month in rent.
Right.
So you're not going to drop $10,000 into some housing trust fund.
Okay, so let's say that even if they do drop $10,000 in that housing trust fund, how many of you out there have contributed to a charitable organization? And how many of you realize how much of every dollar is spent on administrative costs and other costs that do not benefit the end recipient? Now, we know that most charities spend upwards of 90% of the money not on the recipients, but on administrative costs and other costs.
Yeah.
So you're taking this $10,000 and you're saying, hey, it's going to go to somebody for down payment assistance, but not so fast. That $10,000 isn't going to somebody for down payment assistance. You're lucky if $1,000 out of that goes to somebody for down payment assistance. So it does not serve the purpose for which this is intended. And if your position is, well, they'll make it so it is, this is the government we're talking about. Their track record for being good stewards of our funds is lacking.
Okay, here's another point I want to take about this. Two things. First of all, wouldn't the corporations split their ownership into less than 7? So Invitation Homes wouldn't own 3,000 houses.
Mm-hmm.
Invitation Homes Block 1, which was a separate corporate entity, would own 75. And then Invitation Block 2, a completely separate organization with separate ownership, right, would own 75. They would just block them off at 75 because once they own 76, they would have to put 10 grand into each one. The other thing is, too, is let's say that 100% of the money, the $10,000, goes into some fund for down payment assistance. Well, that's just more money that the government is directing for people to buy houses. So it's still in the same economic system. It doesn't really... It's money being transferred from your pension plan. If you're a pensioner and your pension plan is buying these houses, they're taking money and giving it to some other person so that they can go put a down payment, right? The bottom line is what Wanda said originally, these corporations are not really, it's not like, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates. This is their money. This money is an amalgamation of all of us. When you invest in in a pension plan or whatever fund, that it's your money that's being invested. Exactly.
So, while we appreciate that it is difficult out there because of the lack of inventory, what these bills are doing is they're just playing the shell game, because the actual issue is lack of inventory. The lack of inventory is because builders are not building enough homes to accommodate the desire of the marketplace. So if they want to incentivize more building, then that's where they need to look. And they need to look inwardly. And by that, I mean, they need to look at all the regulatory hurdles that builders have to overcome in order to build homes. So for example, here in Las Vegas, we can't build that many homes because we don't have the land. Who has the land? The federal government does. So the federal government needs to look at themselves and what they're doing that is contributing to the housing shortage. And what they're doing is partly that they have the land and they're not releasing the land for places like Las Vegas to build. There are other regulatory hurdles that builders have to overcome. It takes a long time for permitting. It takes a long time for inspections. It takes a long time for all these things. So those things are things over which the government does have control. And it does not limit ownership, but rather streamlining the process of building would indeed cause more building to happen. The other thing that they can do is they can help builders by providing better loan programs for them to build the homes. So there are all kinds of things that they can do to incentivize building, which would actually be helpful.
Here's another quote from the article. By June 2022, institutional investors owned 3% of all single-family rentals nationwide. But in more affordable markets, they own considerable market share. In Charlotte, they own 20%, according to the Urban Institute. The Times explained. Even as the housing market slows, investors have remained active, buying 26% of the single-family homes that sold in June 2023, according to CoreLogic, a data analytics company. A couple things here, Wanda. 3% does not move the needle. 3% of this means that 97%, and remember, this is only 3% of single-family rentals. That's only a third of the market. So what they're saying is institutional investors are really to their numbers, our numbers are a little different. Our numbers that's higher. They're saying only own really 2% of all houses. So there's a 98% chance if you go buy a house, you're not competing against one of these people, right? Now, in some markets, it's a 0% chance. In Charlotte, it says they own 20%. But here's the thing that got me. It says even as the market slows, investors will remain active, buying 26% of the homes that sold in June 2023. But didn't this actually help the people selling? Because their argument is let's make homes cheaper so they're more affordable. But then at the same time, you're evaporating wealth of people who already own homes. So they're trying to take both ends of this. They're trying to say, hey, we want to help out the people who don't own homes by taking the people who do own homes and make their homes worth less money so you can go buy it. And then the homes can go back up in value and you'll be rich like them. But using this logic, the home prices can never go up because as soon as they go up again, there'll be some other, poor person who now can't afford to buy a house. And the dream is home ownership and building wealth. But in order to build wealth, home prices have to go up. But if home prices go up, then they have to go down so other people can buy this. You're in this circular argument of homes are too expensive, but then the people have created wealth by this. So the whole thing to me is a big, it's a nonsensical thing.
Right. So I see your point. Like I said before, my primary thing here is that they're tackling something that just seems to get them press rather than tackling the actual problem, which is partly the government and the process by which builders build homes. So if the government releases more land for the builders to have land to build on, if the government streamlines the whole building process in ways that make it easier and less expensive for builders to build because of the permitting and licensing and all that process, and if the government were to provide financial incentives for builders to build, then that would take care of the problem without interfering with ownership rights. I think that anytime that the government interferes with someone else's ownership right, you have to remember that they will be coming for your ownership right at some point too.
I think that what's interesting is that you could have some markets where these, first of all, there's zero chance this is going to pass. The Congress is so divided right now. Any Democrat bill in the House, the Republicans shoot down. Any Republican bill in the Senate, the Democrats shoot down. It doesn't make it out of committee, which is why we keep having these continuing resolutions to extend the government, because the government's super polarized right now. So there's zero, it's not like even going to get out of the House. So it may run through the Senate, but there won't be a House bill, so the whole thing will die. But, why this is important is if we get back to a situation where a single party is controlling both houses and then the presidents of the same party, in theory, we could start to get extreme stuff on one side or the other. And like I said, I don't want to make this political, but I'm just pointing out the reality that, there's like two sides of the coin. And the side of the coin is if you own a house or more houses, you're a have now because you've built wealth. And if you don't, you're a have not. So this effort to help you build wealth is noble. But then again, how can you build wealth if home prices aren't ever allowed to go up through competition and things like that?
Right. So I think it's a misguided approach. I think that the government does have a role to play, but I think that the approach is poor and they're missing the big picture.
Government literally is the same entity that gave you the tax credit and the capital gains exclusions and all these things for owning a home. And your states all did it too. The states that have income tax, you get tax breaks on your property taxes and things like that. And now they're saying, you've made too much money. We're going to take some away or we're going to shift it back to these other people. But government is literally trying to work on both edges of the knife here. And it doesn't seem to me that it's, a very smart thing to do. It just doesn't, I don't understand, especially if you're in Charlotte, because now you're potentially, let's say they sold all the houses, they could really mess up Charlotte because Charlotte, there would be all these sellers and then, people selling and probably other individuals like you out there or us would go and, if home prices did fall substantially, would just run in and buy them. So, and who would buy them is investors, right? investors would come in and see the opportunity and buy them. So,
Right. So, not to be political, we just wanted to kind of let you know what's going on out there. While we don't think this dog's going to hunt, it is definitely something to watch because things like this do tend to reincarnate over time. So it's important that we're all educated and informed and can act accordingly. So leave us your comments that are related to real estate, please. If you have a political opinion, we appreciate that. We are not a political channel, so please stick to your real estate comments. We appreciate it. Remember to like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share the video, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.
Bye.